All right, it's time for another video already. This video is going to be me kind of going over the suspension on this thing. So I already replaced the tires. I ended up getting some Kenda MT2s. These are 31 by 10.5 R15, so it's factory size tire. I slapped these on. I didn't record that, but it's straightforward. I went to the shop, pulled the old tires off, threw these on here. These should be super nice compared to the old dry rotted and cracked tires that were on here. And you might be thinking, hey, if the tires were old and dry rotted, what about the rubber brake lines? Well, they are also pretty old, cracked, and dry rotted on here. So I have some new rubber lines. These two front lines ended up actually coming with the truck. They were just sitting in the back of it. So I have to make sure they're the right length and good to go. And then this rear line, I ended up ordering for the truck to get it replaced. So I'm going to start there. I'm going to probably start with the front. I'll get the wheels off, jack it up, get the wheels off. I'll make sure that this line is in fact the right length, and then I will pull the old line off, get these new lines put into place. It looks like this new line has the clip on this back side, so I'll have to see if that will actually keep it in place, because I know the retaining clips, one of them was missing on here, so I pulled some off of a Miata shell that I have, but I'll see if that'll actually work. So first thing I'll do is I'll get the front of the truck in the air, and then we'll get started on this side, get that brake line off. I have the wheel off, and one thing to note too is I did replace the original lug nuts on here. They were all in pretty rough shape, so I just got some lug nuts off of Amazon. And these brake lines that came with the truck here do look like they are the correct size. I did already make sure that I can break both sides of the line loose and made sure that this fitting actually spins on the brake line and doesn't get caught on both sides, so that should be good. So now I'm going to try to, as quickly as I can, get the fittings apart, get the line replaced without losing too much brake fluid. Very fortunately, this went super smooth. So what I was able to do is I loosened up the fittings, and then I took this fitting all the way off. So I took this one all the way off. I had both of these retainer clips out. So then what I could do is, with this fitting already loose, I could just hold the old brake line and spin it off this fitting, then put the new fitting on, spun it as tight as I could onto this fitting, and then tightened up this fitting here. But as we can see, this old brake line was all nice and dry rotted and cracked, and who knows how long it would have lasted. So it's a really good idea to get these replaced. So now that this side's done, I'm going to pull the wheel off the other side, get that one replaced, and when that one is done, it's time to move on to the rear. I was wondering what was going to happen because everything was going so smoothly. On this side, the fitting had a little bit of a mushroom at the end. So what I ended up doing is I kind of spun the fitting, and then I used my Dremel to kind of shave down that mushroom a little bit. And then eventually I was able to get it threaded into this fitting here. I did end up losing a whole bunch of fluid through the line. So what I ended up doing is I broke loose the bleeder, which didn't do anything. So I had to take the bleeder all the way out, clean the inside out, and then push the pedal really hard, and eventually I was able to get fluid to actually come through. Now that both sides are done and I have both sides kind of gravity bled a little bit, I'm going to fill up the reservoir, put the cap back on, get the back off the ground, and then I'm going to replace the rubber line that goes to the back axle. Taking a look at this line here, I think what I'll end up doing is I will pull the clip that is holding the line on there, and then I will loosen this fitting and the fitting down there. I'll take the fitting apart on the top, and just like the front, I'll just spin the fitting off the bottom. And I think that should work pretty good. The rear line really made up for that other front line being a pain. This rear one I replaced very easily. I got it all sprayed up with some brake cleaner now. Got the new line in there. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bleed the brakes. So what I have is I have a piece of tubing attached to the bleeder here, and I've got it going up and then to this little bottle of brake fluid here. I'm going to pump the brakes, and essentially what's going to happen is the fluid is going to push through the line, and this one is the furthest away from the cylinder because the distribution block is on the other side of the axle. And what that'll do is it'll push the air out of the line, and it'll suck the fluid back into the line. I also bought a big jug of brake fluid here so that I can replace all of the fluid that's in the lines, just because the stuff that's in there is probably super old. It was super dirty. So I'll go ahead and I'll flush the brake lines a whole bunch. I honestly plan on using this whole bottle of fluid. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna start with this wheel. I'm gonna do this one probably until I get that bottle about 3/4 way full. And then I'll move over to this side. When this side is done, I will do this side. When this side is done, that side, and then I'll go ahead and restart on that other wheel. All the brake lines are put back together. I did bleed everything. I just started with the far corner, then went here, 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 so on and so forth. Did that a couple times just to make sure everything is nice and bled. The pedal still isn't super firm, but I've bled this thing 3 times. I don't think there's any air left in the lines. There's no leaks that I found anywhere, so that should be good. I think I'm gonna drive this thing home and try to get some miles on it so I can see if I can start to get some of that fuel system cleaner through the engine, through the injectors, see if I can start to kind of clear that up. If not, I'll start doing a couple other things. But man, look at that. Look at that sag in the rear. That really needs to be addressed, but we'll get there eventually. Moving on to ball joints here, I have some new ball joints that came with the truck. There's some Detroit axle units. So here's the upper ball joint. I will be installing these. Now the lower ball joints that come with the full Detroit axle kit won't actually work with the this generation truck. So if we take a look at the lower ball joint that I pulled from the other side, we can see how it kind of has that rounded area down here. Well, on the Detroit axle ball joint, that area is flat. Now I'm not going to complain. I got these for free. They came with the truck. I was originally going to just replace the upper ball joints and just leave the lowers. When I put the jack under the other side to push the upper ball joint up to get the nuts installed, I did get quite a bit of play in the ball joint, and I also noticed that the grease fitting was broken off. I tried to get the old fitting out, I couldn't, so I'm gonna end up just ordering some different replacements because I'm not going to Dremel out my knuckle so I can fit some aftermarket ball joints. I'm just gonna get the replacements that actually properly fit. So I'm gonna get started on this side. So what I'm going to do is I'll loosen these 4 bolts, take this grease fitting out. I have to get the pin out of this bolt here, so I'll get that out. Same thing with the bottom. I'll get the pin out of this guy that holds the lower ball joint in, get those nuts out. I'll also have to take the bolt off of the bottom of the sway bar, or the sway bar end link, so I'll get that off, get the ball joint bolts out, and then it's just a matter of getting the strut bolt out, pushing down, hammering on the knuckle to get the ball joint to separate, and then I'll get the new upper installed, and then I'll order some new lower ball joints. I have the upper ball joint broken loose, so what I did, pulled the strut bolt out, I pulled the sway bar link out, and it actually ended up breaking. It looked like it was pretty corroded here, but I plan on replacing it anyways. And then all I did is I kind of pushed down on here with my foot and then hit the knuckle here a couple times with a hammer. It separated pretty easy. So now I just gotta pop these bolts out, get this one out of here, get the new studs pressed into this one, which I'll show how I'll do that, and then get the new one installed. Should be piece of cake. I have a new ball joint here. So one thing I'll note is that I'm not using the hardware, the stuff that comes with the ball joint, and that's because it's really weird sizes. Like this bolt is bigger than the other one. The one that was on here, the factory size, is a 22 millimeter, and this is like a 23 or something. And I don't actually have a wrench bigger than a 22, so I'm going to reuse the original nut. Threads look good, so that's okay. And then these are like a 1/2 inch or 13. So I'm going to reuse the old nuts for the top And then I'm also going to use these washers because this comes with some lock washers and that's it. So it'll be nice to have the washer, lock washer, and the factory nut. But we have to press these into the ball joints. So what I do is I kind of put them in here, and then I grab a thick wall socket that I have by my vise, kind of stick it over like this. It's a nice long one. And then I just kind of close it together with my vise to press it into the actual ball joint. It's kind of weird that they didn't just press it in to begin with, but it's not that big of a deal for me. I can get them installed pretty easy, but if you don't have a vise or a press, you're pretty much out of luck there. Here is the setup. So I've got a long, thick socket here, and then I have the stud kind of just set into the hole like that with socket over it. And then what I'll do is I'll close my vise, and what I did for the other side is I actually used my jack handle for a little extra leverage. So I'll get that on here, spin it around, get all 4 of them installed, and it should be easy peasy. The new studs are pressed in place, so now all I have to do is put this in here, get the washers, lock washers, nuts on, and then I will kind of guide the knuckle on, get the bolt together, get everything tight. And it's really as simple as that. For the lower ball joint, it'll be a similar process. So I already have the lower bolts out. There's 4 of them. You just kind of turn the wheel this way to get the rear 2, turn the wheel the opposite way to get the front 2, get all those out, and that will be the same thing. I'm going to get the pin out of here, and then I'll get this bolt off. And then there's a little crevice that you can shove a screwdriver in to separate the ball joint from the bottom of the knuckle. And then same thing, give a couple whacks to the bottom of the control arm to get the ball joint separated, get that out of there, and then ready for a new one. Once I got everything disconnected here, what I ended up doing is I put my jack on the hub here and jack the hub up, and then if I take the back side of my hammer, I can put it on the steering stop or the knuckle stop, and I can kind of pull it down. So what I did is I hit the knuckle like this, got the ball joint to separate from the control arm, not the knuckle, then push this down to get the ball joint out. So now I'm good to order a couple new ball joints and then some sway bar end links, and I'll be good to throw everything back together. I have the driver's side done, so this side's good to go, but I have some new ball joints here. These are some TRQ ball joints. I've used their parts on a bunch of different vehicles, and they have seemed to be pretty good. The only thing that's kind of disappointing about these is these specific ball joints were about $20 to $30 more than the other brands that make ball joints for this application. And the reason I bought these ones is because in the picture, there's a threaded piece here where you could add a grease fitting. Well, the actual product doesn't have that. So I ended up emailing TRQ and said, hey, why is this? You know, in the pictures it has the grease fitting. And the response was, that is a picture of a sealed ball joint. If you want, you can return the items. It's very AI sounding, but whatever. Hopefully these will be okay. They weren't the most expensive things in the world, and I plan on replacing them with OEM ball joints at some point. But these are just going to be better than the ones that were about ready to fall apart. So I'll get this side installed on the other side. And just like the upper ball joints, I'm going to reuse the original castle nut because these ones are like a size bigger for whatever reason. The other hardware is okay though. I'll end up using this. I use it on this side. So I'm gonna get this side or the other side installed, and then I have some new sway bar end links that I have to install as well. So I'll get this back together, and then we should be able to put this thing back on the ground. All that's left to get this thing on the ground are these sway bar end links here. These, I got the cheapest ones I could find because I'm not sure how long I'll actually run the sway bar for. While I'm driving it around, I want to keep the sway bar, but when I actually use this thing on the trails, I think the sway bar is going to come off to give the wheel a little bit more travel. So I'm going to get these thrown on for now, throw some anti-seize on both sides, make sure it comes apart easy, so I can easily take the sway bar off if I want to. So I'm going to go ahead, get this installed. It just goes through the loop on the top there, and then there's a little spot on the arm where it goes through. So the little rubber bushing goes in those spots. I'll get this installed on both sides, and then it's time to actually get this thing back on the ground. We're all back together with all the fresh new suspension parts, so that should be all good to go. It's nice to have a wheel off the ground and be able to shake the wheel back and forth, and there isn't any play on anything, so that's great. Super excited to drive it and see what it feels like now. This is where I'm gonna end this video. I have a bunch of other stuff that I'm working on, and I actually already started to record some of it, but it's getting pretty in depth, so that's gonna be a longer video. So I'm gonna split it up, suspension, and then the rest of the engine stuff, so we'll keep it there. But leave a like if you like, subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you in the next one.